I never thought I'd be here, sitting in our small apartment, staring at the wall, wondering how we ended up like this. Everything seemed fine at first. Maybe that's what I was telling myself all along. Everything seemed fine. I remember when I met Rachel, back in college. I was 21, naive, just figuring out who I was, and she was this force of nature. Funny, quick-witted, beautiful in that way that made everyone stop and look. The kind of person you knew could walk into any room and change the whole mood. I liked her immediately, but I never imagined she'd be the one. But she was. It didn't take long for us to fall in love. Or, at least, I thought it was love. Everything felt like a whirlwind in those early days. We stayed up late talking about everything. Nothing. What our future would look like. Where we would travel. What kind of life we'd build. There were always promises. We're a team, right? She'd say with that grin of hers. The one that made everything else feel smaller, easier. We'll figure it out together. The first few years of our marriage were the best I could have imagined. We both worked hard, had a few friends over on weekends, went on vacations when we could afford it. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it was ours. I thought that was enough. I convinced myself it was. But lately, I've been wondering if I was wrong about everything. Rachel had always been a little distant, but I figured it was just her way. She had her own things going on, her own way of processing life. But now it felt like she was pulling further and further away, like there was an invisible wall between us, and no matter how much I tried to break it down, she wouldn't let me in. It wasn't just the small things anymore. The offhand remarks, the silence at the dinner table, the way she would stare out the window like she wasn't really there. It was bigger than that. I could see it in her eyes, those brief moments when our gazes met. There was something gone. The warmth, the connection, it was all slipping through my fingers like sand. I wanted to reach out, to hold her and ask what the hell was going on, but I was scared of what she'd say. What if I wasn't enough anymore? What if she was done with this, done with me? It all came to a head one night when I came home early from work. I hadn't expected her to be there. She usually worked late or went out with her friends after hours. But that evening, there she was, sitting on the couch, staring at her phone. When I walked in, she didn't even look up. I paused, unsure if I should say something. "Hey, what's up?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but I could tell my voice betrayed me. It wasn't just a simple greeting anymore. It was more like a lifeline I was throwing, hoping she would grab it. Rachel glanced up briefly, her face blank. "Hey." She was so distant, so off. I tried again. "You okay?" She didn't respond immediately. For a moment, I thought maybe she hadn't heard me, but then she sighed, long and deep. When she looked at me, her face was tight, her eyes shifting like she didn't want to tell me something but was holding it in anyway. "I'm fine," she said, but it was too quick, too rehearsed. I could feel the tension building in the room, like something was about to break, but I didn't know what it was. My heart was pounding in my chest. I had to know what was going on. "Rachel, are you sure?" I asked, trying to sound patient, but I was losing it inside. I wanted to shake her, to make her tell me what had changed. She turned away from me, staring out the window again. It wasn't even the first time she'd done this in the last few weeks, avoiding me, avoiding us. The silence stretched out between us, and it felt like the air was thick, pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. "I don't know, Jake," she finally said, her voice quieter now. It sounded broken, unsure. I don't know anymore." The words hit me harder than I expected. My stomach twisted, and I could feel a lump in my throat. What the hell did that mean? What was she trying to say? My mind was racing, but I couldn't find the right words to ask the question that had been on my mind for weeks. I stepped closer, my hands clammy. "What do you mean? Are you thinking about leaving?" She turned around, her eyes wide now, almost defensive. "I'm not thinking about leaving, Jake. I just need space. I need time to figure things out." Space. Time. Those words. They felt like they were suffocating me. What did that even mean? I stared at her, trying to make sense of the words. Space. I knew she was tired. I knew she was going through something, but I didn't know how to help, or if she even wanted me to. "I don't understand," I said, my voice low, hoarse. We've been together for so long, Rachel. What is this? What's happening to us? She swallowed hard, looking down at her hands. I need to be on my own for a while. I need to figure out how to live without leaning on you. I stared at her, my heart thudding painfully in my chest. I wanted to scream, to beg her to stay, but I knew I couldn't. Not if she didn't want to be here. It hit me then. This wasn't just a momentary thing. It was real. She was serious. The words I wanted to say got stuck in my throat. Instead, I just stood there, frozen, feeling like I was watching everything slip away. She looked up again, her face softer now. I'm not leaving you, Jake, but I need to figure this out. I need to find myself again. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what to say. All I could do was nod, but it felt hollow. So, we sat there in silence, the weight of the moment settling between us like a thick fog. The next few days felt like they were dragging, each one blending into the next in a haze of confusion and dread. Rachel kept her distance, and I tried my best to respect that, though every fiber of my being was screaming to break through, to talk to her, to somehow fix whatever it was that was broken between us. But every time I reached out, even just with a glance, she would pull away, her eyes drifting to anything but me. It felt like we were both on the same ship, but we were heading in different directions. And worse still, we weren't even looking at each other anymore. I started to spend more time at work, not because I wanted to, but because being at home had started to feel unbearable. The silence was suffocating. I'd come home late most nights, hoping she'd be asleep by the time I got back. But sometimes, she'd be awake, curled up on the couch, staring at her phone. She never spoke unless I did first. She always answered, but her responses were hollow, like she was checking off a box in some script we'd both forgotten. The strangest part was how normal she tried to make everything seem. It was like she was trying to act like nothing had changed, like she wasn't slowly pulling away piece by piece. I caught myself wondering, more than once, if she was hoping I wouldn't notice, hoping I'd just accept the distance, the silence, and let it all go. But I couldn't. It hurt too much. I wanted her back. I wanted to find that connection we'd shared before, that spark. I couldn't stand this version of her, this version of us. Then, one night, I walked into the apartment and found Rachel sitting on the couch, her head in her hands, staring down at her lap. There were no distractions, no phone, no TV, no pretending. She looked small, fragile, and utterly exhausted. I froze in the doorway, unsure whether to approach or wait for her to speak first. Rachel? My voice was quiet, tentative. She didn't react right away, but when she finally looked up at me, her eyes were red. Not from tears, but from something deeper, something I couldn't place. She was holding on to something, some kind of tension, maybe, that had built up inside her over God knows how long. I didn't know if I should feel relieved that she was finally acknowledging me, or if I should be terrified because I didn't know what was coming. I can't keep doing this, she said, her voice low, barely above a whisper. My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't know what she meant. Was she talking about our marriage? Was she talking about us? What do you mean? I asked, even though I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly what she meant. I feel like I've lost myself, Jake, she said, looking up at me, her face full of frustration. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want, what I need. And I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when it's not. I don't even know if I can do this, be in this relationship, when I feel so empty. I could feel the words hitting me like a slap to the face. I knew things had been bad, but hearing her say it out loud, hearing her admit it, made everything I had been avoiding come crashing down. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't know how to respond. You're not empty, I said, my voice shaking with emotion I wasn't prepared to deal with. You're not. We've been through so much together. No, she interrupted, shaking her head slowly, like she was trying to convince herself. We've been through things, yes, but you don't understand, Jake. I've been losing myself for months now, maybe longer. I've been so wrapped up in trying to make you happy, trying to make this work, that I forgot who I was. I forgot what I needed. Her words felt like a punch to the gut, but I couldn't just let her go on like that. You think I don't need you? I asked, incredulous, hurt. I've been trying. I've been trying to fix this too, Rachel. You think I don't care? I'm not saying you don't care, she said, her voice softening for the first time in days. I'm just saying, I've been so focused on you and what you need that I lost myself along the way. And now I don't know how to get back to who I was before, or if I even can. I didn't know how to respond. She was telling me everything I didn't want to hear, everything I'd been scared of. I wanted to reach for her, to hold her, but she wasn't reaching for me. She wasn't even asking for my help. She was just unraveling in front of me. I could feel her slipping away, and I couldn't stop it. I don't want to lose you, Rachel, I said, my voice cracking despite myself. I don't want us to fall apart. She met my gaze for a moment, her eyes searching mine. I don't want to lose you either, Jake, but I don't know how to fix this. I don't even know what this is anymore. Her words hung in the air like a heavy fog, thick and suffocating. We both sat there in silence, neither of us knowing how to bridge the gap between us. I could see it in her eyes, the resignation, the uncertainty. She didn't know where to go from here. And honestly, neither did I. It wasn't just the lack of communication anymore. It wasn't just the silence. It was something deeper, something that neither of us had the words to explain. She was struggling with herself, with her identity, and I was struggling with how to be there for her when I felt like I was losing myself in the process. It hurt. It hurt more than anything I'd ever felt before. But I also knew that if I didn't start listening, really listening, to what she was telling me, we were going to be lost. And I wasn't ready to be lost. Not yet. I don't know what the right thing is, I said, my voice raw. But I know I want to try. I want to help you figure this out, even if it means I'm not perfect. Even if it means we both have to change. Rachel didn't answer right away. She just nodded slowly, her eyes searching mine, as though she was looking for something, anything, to hold on to. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. The days that followed felt like a tightrope walk. We both knew something had to change, but we couldn't figure out how to make it happen. The distance between us had been growing for so long that it was hard to know where to start or what to even say. I tried being patient, tried giving Rachel space, but the silence was crushing. Every time I walked into the apartment, I was hyper-aware of the void between us. It was like we were both pretending everything was fine, but nothing felt fine. Rachel, for her part, kept her distance more than ever. She'd spend hours in the living room, scrolling through her phone or staring at the TV, never really watching anything. I couldn't even tell if she was aware of my presence half the time. She'd barely speak, and when she did, it was about something trivial, what she was making for dinner or what she'd read on her social media feed. It was like she'd shut off the part of herself that could connect with me, and I didn't know how to turn it back on. One evening, after another long day of avoiding each other, I found her sitting on the couch again, her legs pulled up under her, her face buried in her phone. I don't even remember what pushed me to speak up this time, but I knew I couldn't let the night slip by without saying something. Rachel, we need to talk, I said, my voice low but steady. She didn't even look up. About what? I was tempted to just let it go, to just sit there and say nothing. But that didn't feel like the right option anymore. We'd both been living like this for far too long. About us, I said, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. About where we're headed, or if we're headed anywhere at all. That got her attention. She finally looked up, her eyes cold and distant. What do you want me to say, Jake? I couldn't help but flinch at the tone in her voice. It wasn't angry, but it was flat, unfeeling. I wasn't sure if she was even mad anymore, or if she had just given up. I don't know, I said honestly, running a hand through my hair. I don't want to keep pretending that everything's okay when it's not. I don't want to keep pretending that this, whatever this is enough for either of us. She looked away again, her gaze drifting to the window like she was trying to avoid me. Her shoulders slumped, and she let out a long, tired sigh. I'm not pretending, she said quietly. I'm just tired. I'm tired of pretending that I have it all figured out, that I know what I want. I don't know what I want anymore, Jake. I don't know who I am. Her words hit me hard, harder than anything she'd said before. I didn't know what to do with that. The woman I'd married, the woman who used to be so certain of herself, so strong. was telling me she didn't know who she was anymore. And it scared the hell out of me. What if I didn't know who I was either? What if we'd both been pretending to be something we weren't, just for the sake of holding on to something that wasn't even real anymore? I know it's been hard, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But Rachel, we've been through so much together. I want to be here for you. I want to help you find whatever it is you need. She shook her head slowly, as if the idea of anyone being able to help her seemed laughable. I don't think I can even help myself right now, Jake. I've been so wrapped up in trying to fix everything for everyone else, for you, for the relationship, that I completely lost track of who I am. I don't even know how to be the person I used to be. I don't even know if I can find that person again. My heart sank. This wasn't what I wanted to hear. I didn't know how to make her see that she didn't have to do it alone. I didn't know how to make her believe that we could figure it out, that we could fix things if we just kept trying. I don't care about who you were, Rachel, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I care about who you are. And right now, you're here. With me. And that's enough for me. I don't need some perfect version of you. I just need you. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was a flicker of something in her eyes. It wasn't hope, exactly, but it was recognition. Like she was starting to see me again. I wasn't just some distant figure in her life. I was Jake, the guy who still cared. But that wasn't enough. Not for her, not for me. There were too many cracks in the foundation of everything we'd built, too many pieces missing. I could feel that. And I think she could, too. I don't know if I can keep doing this, she said softly. I don't know if I can keep pretending that I have it all together when I don't. But I don't want to lose you either. I don't know what to do with all of this, all of us. The weight of her words settled in the room, thick and heavy. I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't have a solution. I didn't know if we could fix things, if we could go back to what we had, or if we were just two people who had drifted too far apart to ever find our way back to each other. I don't know either, I said quietly, but I'm not ready to give up. Not yet. The room fell silent again, but this time it wasn't quite as suffocating. Maybe there was something left to hold on to. Maybe there was still a way forward, even if we couldn't see it just yet. Rachel stood up from the couch then, stretching her arms above her head, the weight of the conversation still hanging in the air. I need some space, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I just need some time to figure things out. I can't keep pretending, Jake. I nodded, not knowing what else to say. Maybe time was what we needed. Maybe it wasn't about fixing everything right away. Maybe it was about letting ourselves breathe and finding some clarity. I'll give you the space you need, I said, though it felt like a hollow promise, one I wasn't sure I could keep. But please, just don't give up on us. She looked at me for a long moment before nodding. I won't. I just need time. I didn't know if that time would lead us back to each other, or if it would finally be the end of the road for us. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we had a shot at figuring it out. And that, at least, was something. The days that followed were a blur, but in the kind of way where nothing really changes, and yet everything feels different. Rachel and I kept our distance, but it wasn't a cold silence anymore. It was a quieter, more measured kind of space. She spent more time out of the apartment, running errands, meeting friends, and just being alone. I couldn't tell if it was because she was genuinely trying to figure things out, or if she was just avoiding the tension at home. Maybe a little of both. I'd hear her coming and going, her car pulling into the driveway, the soft click of the door opening. But most of the time, I didn't move from the couch. There was this unbearable weight of not knowing how to act. I wasn't sure if I should make myself scarce, give her room to breathe, or if I should be reaching out more, talking, asking, trying to get her to open up. But nothing felt right, and I hated that. I kept my routine going, work, the gym, meals by myself. I'd check in on her every now and then. I tried to act normal when she'd walk in, ask how her day was, but the conversations felt hollow, as if we were just filling the space with empty words to avoid saying the things that truly mattered. It became a game of pretend, and neither of us knew how long we could keep playing. One night, about a week after our conversation, Rachel came home late. I could tell she'd been drinking, her steps unsteady, her eyes a little more glazed than usual. She was wearing her work clothes still, but they looked disheveled, like she'd been sitting in them too long. "Hey," I said quietly, not sure what kind of response I'd get. "How was your night?" She looked at me for a moment, her expression unreadable, and then shrugged. "Fine. Just long." I didn't push. Instead, I stood up and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, handing it to her. "Thanks," she muttered, unscrewing the cap and taking a long sip. Her eyes scanned the room, drifting aimlessly, until they landed on me. There was a flicker of something in them. Resentment, frustration, maybe guilt. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice low but firm. I set the water bottle on the counter, my heart kicking up a notch. "Okay, what's on your mind?" She walked into the living room, gesturing for me to follow. My stomach tightened. I didn't know if I was ready for what was coming. There was a nervous energy in her that I hadn't seen in weeks. Something had shifted in her, and I had no idea whether it was good or bad. We sat down on the couch together, a little too far apart. For a moment, she just stared at the floor. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her shirt. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. "I've been thinking about everything we talked about the other night," she began, still not meeting my eyes. "And I'm still not sure what I'm doing, Jake. I'm not sure who I am anymore, or who I was when we first got together." I swallowed hard, trying to keep the lump in my throat from growing. I'd been waiting for this moment, hoping for it in some ways, but now that it was here, I didn't know how to respond. "I don't want you to feel lost," I said finally, my voice unsteady. "You don't have to have it all figured out right now. We can take this one step at a time." Rachel shook her head, her voice dropping lower. "I don't think I can be who you want me to be, Jake. I don't even know what I want anymore. I've been so busy being the perfect wife or the perfect person that I forgot who I really am. And the worst part is, I don't even know if I want to go back to that person. I don't know who she was, or if I ever really knew her." My stomach churned at the words, but I tried to stay calm. This was the Rachel I'd been afraid of, the one who couldn't see any way out of the hole she dug herself into. "Rachel, you don't have to be perfect." "I never wanted you to be perfect," I said softly. "I just want you to be you. If that means figuring things out or taking a step back, I'm okay with that. I just want to be here for you." Her eyes were moist now, her voice wavering with emotion. "I don't even know if I want someone to be here for me, Jake. I don't know if I'm ready for that." I felt a sharp sting in my chest at those words, but I knew I had to keep pushing forward. "What do you mean? You're not? You're not ready for what, exactly?" She hesitated, swallowing hard before speaking again. "I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship. Not with you, not with anyone. I need to figure out who I am before I can even think about trying to fix what we have." My heart cracked a little at hearing those words, but part of me understood. She wasn't rejecting me. She was rejecting the version of herself she thought she had to be in order to make everything work. She was rejecting a life that had been built on expectations and external pressures, not on who she actually was deep down. "I'm scared, Jake," she whispered. "I'm scared of losing myself. I'm scared of losing you. I'm scared of losing everything." My chest tightened, but I knew that the only way out of this was for her to face it head-on, even if it meant taking a step back. I didn't want to lose her, but I knew that pushing her would only make it worse. "I'm not going anywhere, Rachel," I said softly, though my voice was shaking. "I'll wait for you. I'll be here when you're ready. But you need to be honest with yourself. And with me." She took a deep breath, her eyes wet with unshed tears. "I don't know what I need. I don't know what I want. But I'm not going to keep pretending that everything's okay. I don't think I can do that anymore." I nodded, my throat tight. "Then let's figure it out together. Whatever it takes." For a long time, there was nothing but the sound of our breathing. I wanted to reach out to her, to hold her, to make everything feel like it was going to be okay, but I knew it wouldn't be that simple. Not anymore. We sat in silence, both of us knowing that something had changed, but neither of us sure if it was a step forward or the beginning of the end. I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew I wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. And maybe, just maybe, neither was she. The days after that conversation were slow, each one dragging more than the last. We'd settled into a routine that felt like it was built on uncertainty. Rachel still came and went, but now there was an unspoken rule between us. No more pretending everything was fine. She'd be distant for a while, and then, when she'd come home, we'd sit in silence. There was a sense of relief in it, I suppose, but also a quiet ache. I tried to stay patient, to give her space to think, but it was starting to wear on me. There were moments when I'd catch myself questioning everything. What had gone wrong? What I should have done differently? But I had to remind myself that Rachel was working through her own stuff. I couldn't carry her burden, no matter how badly I wanted to make things right. One evening, as I sat on the couch, flipping through a magazine I'd already read a dozen times, Rachel walked in with a kind of urgency in her step that caught me off guard. She wasn't drunk this time, but she was visibly shaken, her face pale and tight with something I couldn't place. "Jake, we need to talk," she said, her voice thin, as if she'd been holding something in for too long. My heart sank, but I forced myself to nod. "Okay, what's going on?" She hesitated, glancing around the room like she was searching for the right words. She didn't sit down. Instead, she stood near the door, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. I've been trying to figure out why I feel so lost all the time, and I think I've finally figured it out." I held my breath, waiting for the bomb to drop. She ran a hand through her hair, looking at the ground before meeting my eyes. "I've been so focused on what I thought was the right thing to do for us, for me, that I didn't even stop to think about what I really wanted. I've been so scared of everything falling apart that I lost sight of who I was. And I think I've figured out that I've been lying to myself about what I want in a relationship." I blinked, unsure whether this was good news or more bad news. She was opening up, but there was still so much uncertainty in her tone. "Rachel, what do you mean? What are you saying?" "I think I need a break," she said quickly, as though the words had been held in for far too long. "Not from you. Well, maybe from you, but I need a break from all of it. From this life, from the idea of us, from everything. I just need space to figure out who I am, without worrying about being someone else for anyone else." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew she was struggling. I knew she was lost, but hearing her say it out loud, hearing her say that she needed a break from everything we'd built, it felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I stared at her, not knowing what to say. What could I say? I knew she needed this, but that didn't make it hurt any less. "A break?" I finally managed to say, my voice tight. "Rachel, is that really what you want?" "I think it is," she replied quietly, her voice almost cracking. "I think I need to figure out who I am without the weight of trying to fix this all the time. I'm not saying I want to end things. I'm just saying that I need to stop pretending. And I need to stop pretending with you, too." I could feel a lump forming in my throat, but I swallowed it back. "So, you just want space, but you don't want to end things?" Her eyes softened. "I don't know. Maybe I don't even know what I want. But I do know I can't keep living in this gray area with you. It's not fair to either of us." I nodded, though I felt like I'd just been punched in the chest. I wasn't angry, not exactly, but the helplessness of it all, the uncertainty of what would come next, was crushing. "I get it," I said quietly, though I didn't really feel like I did. I didn't want to get it. "So, what does that mean for us?" I think we need some time apart," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to figure out who we are as individuals before we can even think about what we are together." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say something that would make everything okay again, but I knew better. I knew that pushing her would only push her further away. If she needed space, I had to give it to her, even if it was breaking my heart to do so. "I understand," I said, my voice almost too steady. "If that's what you need, then I'll give you that." Rachel exhaled, as though a weight had been lifted off her shoulders, but I felt the weight settling in my own chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm sorry it has to be this way, but I don't know how else to do this." "I know," I said, my voice breaking a little despite my best efforts. "I know." She didn't say anything more, just turned to leave. But before she stepped out the door, she paused. "Jake!" She looked back at me, her eyes full of something between regret and tenderness. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to do this for me. I know, I repeated, this time softer, quieter. I get it. I just want you to be happy, Rachel, whatever that means. She gave me a sad smile, the kind that spoke of too many unsaid things. Then she walked out. The silence that followed was deafening. It felt like everything had shifted in an instant, like we were standing on the edge of something neither of us could see, but both of us felt coming. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I had no control over it. Not anymore. I spent the next few weeks in a strange kind of limbo. Rachel had kept her distance, but we texted occasionally, and the conversations always seemed to end too soon, like she was pulling away even when she was trying to reach out. It was clear she was still wrestling with herself, still unsure of what she wanted. And I was stuck in this waiting game, caught between hoping she'd come back and fearing she might never. It wasn't until one night, when I was sitting at my kitchen table scrolling aimlessly through my phone, that I got the message. A simple text from Rachel. Can we talk? I didn't even hesitate. My fingers were already flying across the screen. Yeah, when? She replied almost immediately. I'm on my way over. I wasn't sure what to feel. Relief? Anxiety? The uncertainty of it all made me feel like I was constantly on the edge of something I couldn't control. She arrived at my apartment 20 minutes later, and there she was, standing in the doorway like she wasn't sure whether she should walk in or just leave again. She looked tired. Her face was pale, her eyes dull, like she'd been through a lot in the time we'd been apart. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding. Rachel, what's going on? She took a deep breath, stepping inside but leaving the door cracked behind her like she might change her mind and run away. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said, her voice raw, like she hadn't spoken to anyone in a long time. And I know I've hurt you. I know I've pulled away. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending like I'm okay when I'm not. She paused, her eyes searching mine like she was looking for something. Answers, forgiveness, understanding. I can't keep living in this state of constant uncertainty, Jake. I can't keep running from everything just because I'm scared. I've been so afraid of losing myself that I lost sight of you, of us, of everything that actually matters. I thought I needed space to figure things out, but I've realized that I've just been avoiding what I should have been facing all along. I waited for her to keep going, but it was like she was gathering her courage to say the next part. Her hands were trembling at her sides, and for the first time in a long time, I saw vulnerability in her eyes. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm scared of everything. I'm scared of us, of what we've become, of what's coming next. But more than that, I'm scared of losing you. That last part hit me harder than anything she'd said before. My heart clenched in my chest, but I held back the urge to reach for her. I wasn't sure what she wanted from me, but I couldn't be the one to chase after her anymore. I don't want to lose you either, I said quietly, but you can't keep pushing me away and then expect everything to just go back to normal. I don't even know what that would look like anymore. Rachel nodded, looking down at her feet. I know. I've been selfish. I've been confused. But I need you to know that I don't want to leave you. I don't want to walk away from everything we've built, even if it's falling apart. I need time, Jake. I need time to figure out who I am in this relationship. I can't keep pretending I have all the answers. But I don't want to lose you in the process. The words she was saying, there was something real about them this time. The distance that had been between us felt like it was starting to close, but I wasn't sure if it would be enough to rebuild what we had. So what does that mean? I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. Rachel looked up at me then, her eyes brimming with something close to regret, but also hope. It means I'm not giving up on us, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I can't promise you that everything will be okay right away. I need you to understand that. I understand, I replied, though I wasn't sure I did. I just need to know if there's still something between us. If you're still in this. Because I can't keep waiting around if there's nothing left. She stepped closer to me, her hands slowly reaching out until they rested lightly on my chest. I'm still here, she said softly. I'm not giving up on you. But I need us to figure this out together. I need to stop being so afraid of facing the truth. I couldn't help it. I pulled her into my arms then, holding her tight as if the contact would somehow pull us both back from the brink of everything we'd been through. I wasn't sure where this would lead, or if it would even work, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe there was a chance. Maybe we could fix this, if we both wanted to. I don't want to lose you, I said again, the words feeling more real this time. I know, Rachel whispered back, and I don't want to lose you either. There was a long pause, the weight of everything unsaid between us. But somehow, in that silence, it felt like we were starting over. Not as the people we had been before all of this, but as something new, something stronger, something more honest. I didn't have any illusions that everything would magically be okay right away. But for the first time in a long while, I believed that we could try. We could work through this together, whatever it took. And that, in the end, was all we could really ask for.